But you have to know the transits clearly and think it through with the transits as much as possible what to do with it before you come into the progressions, or you won't see it. My opinion. Okay, so now when we look at this, she had a new moon in 73 at 13 degrees of Leo. She's only 5 years old. That's beginning school. So that was a deep impression starting. Then she had the full moon in 1987. Okay. Then it went up to the new moon. The next new moon was in 2002, September. She had her new moon. That was the first two were in Leo, with the sun in Leo. The next ones are going to be with the sun in Virgo, the new moon, sun and moon in Virgo. And that was still in the 11th house, 2002. And okay, so that was a deep, profound gong going off, a big interchange. You can't always measure it, but you can, when it's you know what you went through at that time. That's very formative. And then the full moon, progressed full moon, 2016, just passed. 2016, the full moon came, and then 2018, Saturn hit the IC. So the full moon was the last enlightenment point about relationships, thinking, studying, learning, before it hit the IC, before Saturn hit the IC. Saturn was in the 3rd house. This is in the 12th. You're completing old things, letting go of the shadow, and being more enlightened about it to some degree with that full moon. Then it comes up to then eventually the sun goes into Libra. It hits into a couple of years, and hits the ascendant, and then you have the progressed new moon right in the 1st house. That's hugely supportive, very profound. So looking at that, at this point is one of these things you can go and look at the new moon, see the degree it's in, see the pentan, the subpentan, the hexagram, the subhexagram, and you can start to say, well, see, you jump into this a whole nother, I wonder what that means, and you get this intuitive level. That's when it becomes really useful to go to the I Ching, to add another thing if it's to get you deeper into it. But it's not till, if she lives to 2046, then she has the progressed full moon eclipse. And full moon eclipse, that's 1st house to 7th house, identity, relationships. It doesn't, you tend to, the first instinct is, oh, that's going to be a difficult thing about relationships. Not necessarily. It's an enlightenment, and because it's an eclipse, it forces a real spiritual inwardness. So the meditations under eclipses are incredible. There's no more profound time to meditate. So you know that there's a spiritual thing coming up to 2046. And at that point, 2046, she's 80, she's 79, 80. She's got a mystical experience happening at that time that she needs to work towards. But before that doesn't even count right now, because you've got the new moon coming up, and that is setting the impression for the rest of her life in a Venusian way. Whatever, when she starts getting the things she likes, and that it's okay, and she's not feeling guilty about not living the way she wants, or doesn't, when it starts coming in positively, the sun gets out of the 12th house, it starts coming. This is you really blossom. It's like, it's more than a rose. We say the Leo's the rose, but really it's a peony. Poof, the whole peony blossoms. It's no more ants. The ants are finished eating with the ball, and then suddenly the peony can open. That's kind of like what looks like a head. As beautiful symbol as I can get. Okay, so you can go through this further and see when the moon crosses the angles, which we have. I put the dates for the moon crossing the angles. But the new moons and the full moons, seeing the sun go through and seeing where the new moons are full moon, those are the key marks that you need to know. By knowing where those are, as you're working so much towards your spiritual moments, the inner ones and the outer ones, the enlightened, the fulfillment ones, the full moons, and the inner, deep, profound ones on the new moons. And you see those key points in your life. There's only 6 of them if you live long enough. It's important to know where they are. These are the halfway points of the Saturn cycle. You know, her Saturn, so her Saturn's on the IC, it's a changing sign. That's so useful to see. But it's on the midheaven as it hits the middle of the sign. And so you can see the Saturn cycle, you can almost put waves around it as it moves, as the Saturn cycle moves. That's a good idea. I may try and do that just to see that. I haven't done that. But on this graph, you could add the waves of Saturn going around. I'm not sure how to, just because it's not the timing, the Saturn's moving around in certain ways. It's not necessarily in the sign, so the waves wouldn't work on that, no. But there is a wave of similar timings going on, the parallel waves. 30 years in the sun, progressed sun in the sign, 30 years of transits of Saturn, 30 years from one new moon to the next new moon, or from one full moon to the next moon, 15 years in between. These are like perfectly aligned cycles. It just takes a little time thinking back and forth and jumping back and forth and not saying, I can't do this. Yeah, you can. You got the Saturn, you got this, you know where the Saturn is, you know where the practical things are and the life challenges are and what's going on. This is what's changing inside. This is what the person's learning through that. Okay, now I'm taking a different. I want to go. Okay, well, now we have to see. First of all, we saw the sun. We just want to see the Mercury. We knew before how the Mercury had just gone straight forward. Her Mercury goes straight forward goes through a lot of signs. It goes through Leo, Virgo, Libra, goes into Scorpio, and in 1949, Mercury goes retrograde. So 49, 33. That's like 82. Yeah, so when she's 82, Mercury goes retrograde. Depending how long she lives, it will never get out of Scorpio, but it goes forward and it backs up a bit. But again, it's in 2011, it went over the ascendant. So it's already in the first house and in the Libra phase, and the sun's going to join it. So the ability to write and express what one thinks is beautiful or one values, that's really strongly there. And the rethinking it and the reevaluating, the Mercury is working in the Libra and the Venus stage, in the Venus worship, and the sun is coming up to join it. Very cool. But the sun stays in Libra a little bit longer. It's not till about 80 something that it would go into Scorpio. 80 years or something it goes into Scorpio. So it's kind of going along this way. You see it. So you can see how the two are working around that, and you can see how it's coming out of the 12th house and leaving the old behind and all this stuff. Wow, you can see the future really evolving through this. There's a destiny in this. And this is a progressed sun. It's moving forward. And it's moving out of the past where it doesn't matter. So many things we got out of it already, but it's moving out of the past, and yet it's moving forward. You can see this forward place. Okay. So we wanted to see that with Mercury. Just get a sense that we're just still staying focused on the sun, going through the last part of Virgo into Libra, through the 12, out of the 12th house over the ascendant. That's her inner texture of the next 10 years. Her Venus, I want to look at her Venus. There it is. You can't see it too clearly, but it goes forward, it retrogrades, it comes back, and it stays. It's mostly in Virgo her whole life, except for a few years when it's in Leo. Okay, and let's just go to the next one. I have it magnified. So here you see the Venus. It moves up a couple of degrees. And the dates for the inner ones is that 1976 in July, Venus went retrograde. 1976. Could be a little bit before or after, but around that. And then it went retrograde. And in 1983, Venus was back at the starting point, at its place where it was when she was born. So she went forward into life emotionally, which she wanted, then it backed up, got back to the starting point. And since then, Venus has been retrograding before what she wants, her desires, her emotions, her values have been going, it's like it's going back before where it was in this lifetime. So it's going back to, what do I want? What do I appreciate? It's like she's emotionally looking for something from another lifetime, trying to figure out how come this happened, what's happened, what do I want, what I want. And look right now, since July 2019, really, it was 2018 to 2019 that Venus went direct. It's only just changing now. This whole period. And then it's going forward. She's young enough that by 2050, 83, her progressed Venus gets back to its own progressed Venus. And then by 2051, a year later, 84, her progressed Venus goes past the point it went furthest forward before it went forward, goes back to get something, goes back, and then it's moving on. From 51 on, she's in her own territory. It's her Venus is moving forward beyond things that have happened in the past and beyond anything she's done in this lifetime. It's changing and opening up. Okay, then you can see 57, there'll be some block there that's later on in the 80s, and then 60 hits Uranus. So these are changes of what one wants at an older age. Doesn't look so older to me now, but it's still it's hard to imagine what that would be. But this turning point, that she's at the turning point now, this Venus retrograde is really a significant point. So now at a progression, we have a couple of really unique things. You know that when something goes retrograde, Venus is going to be 10, 15 years in 1 degree, in one little section of the zodiac for a long time. Then it'll start moving faster forward. And for her, it really goes back, it goes back into Leo, but when it goes in, it squares the moon, goes directly. So this was tied into some of the disruptions to the moon, and this comes back and hits the moon, or turns around, hits the moon again, and then goes forward and gets back into Virgo. So there's only a little time in her life where the Venus is in Leo. And it goes back in Virgo, where it'll be the rest of her life. Okay, so we've done all this thing, but coming to the point where you're standing back looking and say, oh, there's some cross sections between the transits and the progressions of what's sun, and you're just trying to see, okay, so even though you don't know what this means, against the background of the sun going out of Virgo in 3 years, and then going into Libra, will the Venus still be in Leo by the time it gets into Libra for a little bit, or will they both shift at the same time? So, okay, so you got a part of the puzzle with Venus. Now, there's a couple other things I wanted to show you from this chart. You're always learning as you're going into it. Here, okay, I went way back to 2018, but I want to show why. I went 2010. I went way back to 2010 because I wanted to get when the progressed sun conjuncted Pluto. See, just back up here a second, get a chart. Actually, I'll just bring the chart over. Okay, so